short story by Paul McCann, Camping in Caves. Our neighbourhood was so rough that we often had to stick together, because it was strength in numbers, you know. We had a good crew. All of us played football, we all played for the same club, and our friendship was strong. Then there were the Aherns, there was the Jerry, the cousin Peggy, Meehans, Dwayne's, Mickey Spider, Lefty Armstrong. And then there was my best friend, Stevie. We were best friends even before we started school. From the day we started school, we all began to ride bikes together every day to and from school. Sometimes we swapped over our bikes just for something different. And as we grew up, we started to stay out a bit later and we went away for weekends. Our favourite place to go was down the bridge by Kanga Creek. That's where we went jumping off the bridge into the creek. Some of our favourite spots there are around Dandy Point. We had enough pocket money so we could take a boat and go fishing out in the bay. We never caught many fish, but we enjoyed each other's company and they were the same. As the years went by, we had a few disagreements, but we stuck together. We were good friends. It was now our last year at school. Some of us felt a little bit sad because the crew were moving away from the neighbourhood. After school was over, the year would have been like goodbye forever, some of us. So this was our last summer together. And as a crew we decided to spend the weekend camping up in the high country near Woolwise Lake. We made some plans to do a lot of rock climbing and fishing. There would be a lot of time for drinking beer and doing what men do when they're out alone in the world, in the wild. Weeks went by. Countdown was on. There was only a few weeks left now till school was over. Our head teacher, Mr. Balty, stood in front of us. All year 12 there in the final assembly in the sports oval one afternoon, and he pointed his finger furiously and called us the worst class and the worst school they'd ever taught at. Jerry started to laugh. We all joined in. It was the end of school for most of us and we couldn't care less. All we could do was laugh. Balty was frustrated. At times he reacted in a slightly overdramatic way. He loved an audience, and school assemblies were his big chance to star for a little while. It was kind of cute most of the time. I can still remember the last words he said about our crew in front of the entire school assembly. There was a huge silence after he said, "In all my 30 years of teaching, I have never been so disrespectfully treated by any student. You could have a lot to learn, you lot, and you haven't learned anything in school. I hope you can learn it out there in life, whatever it brings to you." Some of the boys seemed to think it was funny, and Balty screamed, and the whole school began laughing. One of the other teachers noticed that it was also a bit funny, so somebody had hoisted up a desk on top of the flagpole. There was the desk in mid-air, and it was Mr. Balty's own school desk. The day only got worse after that. There were keyholes in the classrooms that were filled with glue, and teachers' chairs with the legs sawn off, blackboards spread with graffiti and trip ropes in the corridors. Most of the stairwells in the school were barricaded with school furniture, and somebody had unplugged the computer terminals and phones. It was chaos. When school was finally out, the crew held a special meeting that evening after dinner in the clubhouse. About a dozen, we all met there in the change rooms, the local swimming pool. There we were to discuss the issues of the day and the state of play for the weekend. Football was over in the season. Main issue now at hand for the boys and the crew was about the weekend camping trip. We had to work out how much beer we could carry and who would be in charge of the money. There were other things to be decided, like who would look and who would cook and who would do this and that and who would clean and who would stand guard and who would be responsible for first aid in case anyone had an accident. That's the way we did things in the crew. We worked together. We got things done. Some of us really started to mature. One of the Ahern twins even had a full beard on his chin. Spider and Lefty had tattoos. Mickey, he had dated a few girls already. There were some of us who didn't want to be old because that meant leaving behind the golden days of our youth. Most of us never let on, but I guess deep down we were afraid of losing those times. That's why we wanted a final thing together at the Woolwash. Everything was planned. After school was over, for another year we were all going to Lake Woolwash. Suddenly the day came and there we were, standing on the side of the road with the thumbs put out. Fancy we got a lift. It was in the back of an old lumber truck on its way north. We spread ourselves around the tree trunks and the logs in the back of the truck. There was plenty of room. That afternoon we arrived at the lake and we made our way over to the side of the water and sort of sat there looking, rocking back and forward. A few others climbed up to the top of tree branches and dived into the water head first. After a while we made our way to the caves on the side of the cliff face. Once inside the caves we lit little small fires and started to unpack sleeping bags and the beer. They were the two priorities. After we drank a few beers we kind of nodded off to sleep. During the night some of the wildlife had crept into the cave. Charlie Ahern jumped out of a sleeping bag screaming about a snake crawling in his sleeping bag. And in a panic we all jumped up and started to bash the sleeping bag with anything we could lay our hands on. If there'd been a snake in there, it didn't stand a chance. Charlie took a sleeping bag and went outside the cave to upend the entire contents over the ridge. As he was out there, he could hear somebody calling for help. The voice seemed to be coming from higher up the cliff face, and he came back into the cave and told everyone what he heard. With more than enough Dutch courage, it was agreed that the whole crew would climb up the cliff to where the cry for help was coming from. So there we were, like lizards. Up a rock face we crawled, up the side, every foothold, every hand grip, carefully considered before continuing the climb. The voice was now clearly distinguishable. It sounded like an old man who was in trouble. We called out to him, "Hang on, we're coming!" "Please, hurry!" came the response. All the lads made their way inch by inch closer to where the man was screaming. With the assistance of a flashlight, they located the old man cradled by the branch of a tree on the edge of a rocky precipice. It looked like he had fallen from some place higher up above. What a surprise it was when they recognised who was lying there in the middle of nowhere, hanging onto a tree trunk. You wouldn't believe it. It was Mr. Balty, the old teacher we had, a bit badly shaken, in need of rescuing. Took a while, but they were able to free him from the branches of the tree, and then they made a human chain and slowly but surely lowered him down to the entrance of the cave. Once he got sitting there beside the fire, we gave him a few drinks and he started to come around. Mr. Balty was so relieved. He sat and he said, "Well, boys, there I was on Chambers Lookout taking a photo of Lake Woolwash. I don't know. I didn't know what was going on. I just must have lost the balance." "Hi, I didn't know you were a photographer, Mr. Balty," said Lefty. The old man replied, "Oh yes, as a matter of fact, I'm a member of the Woolwash Photographic Society. Well, actually, there's only 4 of us in the club, but each week one of us is challenged to take photographs of a certain topic. And this week, well, my challenge was Lake Woolwash. I wanted to capture the lake under the best light, and I had everything perfect before I slipped and fell. Oh, well, it's the branches of the tree that stopped me falling. As a matter of fact, I wish I had my camera with me as I lay there in the branches. The lake was a real picture from where I was. The aperture was perfect. A number of wild swans glided down on the surface. Magic it was." "So, what happened to your camera, Mr. Balty, huh?" Spider asked. Mr. Balty thought deeply for a moment, and then he said, "Well, as far as I can remember, There I was at the lookout, leaning out with my camera just in the stance, when suddenly the camera slipped out of my hands. It didn't go very far. I could still see it on the ground over the other side of the barrier there. But no one was around. The more I looked, the camera was just sitting there. The more I could see, I wanted to recapture it. I never thought about the edge of the cliff face. It seemed so simple. So I jumped over the fence and I made my way over to where the camera had fallen. As I reached out for the camera, well, the loose ground started to give way, I think, under my feet, and it was too late. Recovering the camera was now the furthest thing from my mind. I frantically reached out for any kind of hold, but everything I reached came to the edge of a cliff along with me. Crumbling away it was, and what kind of camera is it you had? Jerry asked. Well, actually, it's a very expensive digital camera, Haltermarker. Balti looked and he said to Jerry, what did he say? Is it like this one, from Germany? Hey, Mr. Balti, there's one lying over there. Is that your camera? Jerry held it up. Beautiful silver camera. Oh, Jerry, I said, where did you get it? Old Balti said, I just found it lying on the ground outside the cave there. Oh, thank you very much. How can I repay you, boys? Balti replied, taking back the camera. Well, you know what, maybe you could tell everybody at the school assembly how some of your Year 12 students saved your life, Spider said. You got a deal, said old Balti. The weekend camping trip went well, even with Mr. Balti there, as we invited, I suppose, him to join the company. After the weekend was over, well, we got to know Mr. Balti a bit better. It wasn't really that bad after a while when you got to know him. What a surprise we all had during the week when we say, like, a photo of us in the cave and an article written about us appeared in the local paper. The Heroes of Year 12. Mr. Balti wrote a lovely little article. It was published in all the local papers. We were like local heroes. We lived on the kudos for a long time. Anyway, we got all a nice surprise when he invited us, all the crew, to a personally written school reference that he gave to us over dinner. The end.